Alright, balik po tayo. Ito, tumawag na dito ang 0915-180-3289. Tawag niya sa sarili niya, si Boy Palaboy mula ng Pangasinan. Mang Ray, si Mang Sergio Osmeña at Mang Kiko Pangilinan ay mga idol ko ang mga yan at mahalaga sila sa mga staff nila. Well, it looks like you're getting very positive thoughts here. From 0919-221-2562. I agree with the previous caller. It should now be Osmeña for president. None of these texts are made up, ha, Kuya Serge.
Planted mo yan.
Wala akong pinaplant dito ng isang text. I've never done that in my life and I don't want to begin now. So, alam mo kasi, para bagang ang tingin ng tao, they're so hungry for somebody to speak with competence and wisdom. Kasi kung pakikinggan mo, lalong-lalo na yung mga senador na nahalo sa PIDAF, puro kabalbalan ang sinasabi.
No comment.
Okay, no comment. I don't expect you to comment, mga kasama mo sa Senado. But, ayun nga pala, ano ba ang dapat gawin doon? Do you believe, or you still have no comment, na sila dapat magbitaw na sa Senado? They should voluntarily give up their post.
That is normal in most other parliaments.
Yeah. Okay. Throughout the country, pagka nagkaroon ng ganyan charge,
resign.
Sila na nagbibitaw eh. Yeah. Pero hindi mo siguro maintindihan. Amor proprio talaga. Pero hindi mo maasahan dito sa Pilipinas, ano? Dito kasi walang guilty dito hanggang hindi ka nakukonvict, which of course is,
walang guilty at walang talo.
At saka walang talo.
Dinaya lang.
Dinaya lang. All right. From 0907-557-2949. Rodel Dorado ng Palawan. Good evening, sir. Promote ang government para sa ikabubuti ng magsasaka. Pero ang bumuti sila din sa nasa gobyerno. What do you want to comment on that na something is the matter with our agricultural programs and policies, and the growth rate of 2% after 3 years in office, to me, leaves a bad taste.
Well, actually, since 1998, when I was chairman of the Senate Agricultural Committee, because I was the only farmer in the Senate, so I understand the sector. Sinabi ko na sa mga policy makers, President Ramos, President Erap, President Gloria, mali yung rice self-sufficiency yan.
Yeah, it's a terrible program.
You are asking people to remain poor. Ang dapat ang focus ninyo, anong profit sa farmer? So, kung mas malaki ang kita nila kung tatanim sila ng peanuts, cut flowers, yung mga value
para sa land use,
high value crops.
Oh.
And they're making, instead of 30,000 a hectare, they're making 100,000, 200,000. Eh ano, kung wala silang palay, ipapadala nila ang asawa nila sa California, bibili ng California rice, babalik dito, and they're still better off.
Alam mo, this was always the problem, even with the economic policies, panahon pa ni Dadong Macapagal and Carlos Garcia. Yung bang...
Ganun katanda ka ba?
Okay, ganun. No, the point that I'm trying to drive at Kuya Serge is this, no? Self-sufficiency is the way to the poorhouse, not the way to prosper. You've got to encourage them to increase, to produce more, not just enough to feed you. That has never been a goal that has created big successes. It's always a question of, mayroong kikita dyan sa pagbibigay ng pamahalaan ng tulong dito sa ganon para lang maging self-sufficient ka. Anong incentive mo for them to grow? Nothing.
Ito, let me just continue what I said. Because I agree with you, pero ito yung kwan. Sa Malaysia po, mas malahawak ang kanilang lupain dun. Their idea of food self-sufficiency is 70%. Bakit? Because they encourage the people to plant rubber, hindi naman makain ng rubber, pero mas malaki ang kita. So, yung 30% nila, they contract to buy rice from India, from Burma, from Cambodia, from Vietnam, from Laos. Now, last December 2010, the World Bank funded a study that was headed by a group of former NEDA CL Habito. There were 4 other very prominent economists with him. And they were proposing precisely this, a paradigm shift. Pinatay ng Secretary of Agriculture. So the World Bank could not release the study to the public for debate because the Secretary of Agriculture said he did not agree with it. Sabi ko, these are ideas only. These are concepts that have to be debated. Para
Bakit ayaw
maintindihan.
nilang ilabas?
Ayaw. So, sabi ko kay Ciel, i-release mo nga sa akin yan. Binigyan niya ako ng copy, pero I'm not allowed to divulge it. So, inis ako na naman sa administration na ito. These are very important reform measures.
Alam mo, what's the point of being self-sufficient if it costs you, let us say, 100 pesos per kaban? When somebody is producing it and you can buy it
At
for
60.
35 pesos or more,
That's correct.
what's the point? You are going to the poorhouse that way.
That's the economic theory of comparative advantage.
Wala bang makapag-isip ng matino doon? Hindi ko malaman kung paano nag-iisip.
Ayoko naman sabihin na hindi naman sila. But talagang, the definition of insanity that was defined by Albert Einstein, insanity is doing the same thing over and over, hoping that you'll get a different result.
Yeah.
So, yung
It is insanity.
policy natin, the same parati since the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s,
Pareho,
70 years. Sabi ko, ano ba?
May iba natin ang usapan naman. Ano bang posisyon mo dito sa mga American forces being based in military camps?
I voted against the BFA. Liliman lang kami.
Alam mo kasi napoproblema ako doon eh. Una-una, kaninong bandila ang mauuna dyan? You know that America never allows any other flag to stand with it or above it? Number two, sino ang commander-in-chief doon sa base na yon? Who calls the shots? Napakadaming procedural and protocol problems that are going to be created unless, in effect, hahatiin mo yung kampo o diyan ka, dito kami. Pero within the same camp. Walang pakialaman. Ay, that means binigyan mo na sila ng sovereignty doon sa kampo na pinagbabawal ng konstitusyon.
Tama po yan. Pero my problem was granting them special treatment if they violated our laws.
Oo.
Kaya
and dyan hinihingi nila na pag yung mga sundalo nila bumay-violate ng law, will not be prosecuted under our laws.
That's correct.
Di ba?
So, kaya nag-vote ako ng no. Lilima lang kaming senador that voted no to it. Pero na-ratify po yung BFA in 1999.
Oo.
Panahon ni President Erap. At ngayon, ini-expand nila. Pero sinasabi nila, but this does not have to go through the Senate. Sabi ko, away tayo dyan.
Kailangan.
Sabi ko, away tayo.
Because even the constitutionality is a little bit problematical.
That's correct. Questionable.
Alright, from 0917-877-9985 from Elson Gilza of Coronadal, South Cotabato. Mabuhay kayo dyan sa South Cotabato. Good evening, sir. Ask ko po, Senator Osmeña, anong pananaw ninyo sa open pit mining issue sa Pinas at ang malawakang power crisis sa Mindanao? Uy,
Okay.
two loaded issues.
Yeah, well, I've answered that many times. Yung power crisis muna. Yung power crisis po, ang kasalanan po dyan sa power crisis na yan, yung mga kasamahan ninyo dyan sa Kongreso in 2001 when we passed the EPIRA. Ayaw nila sumali sa EPIRA. At winarning ko sila, I said, boss, sige, we'll give you the 10-year exemption that you're asking so that we don't have to sail Agus Pulangi. But ito mangyayari sa'yo, you will run short of power. Di bali, bigyan mo kami 10 years.
10 years
sige,
pa yun.
10 years. So 10 years, ayun na nga, in 2010,
Kinulangan ng power.
nakulangan ng power. Your 963 megawatt Agus Pulangi hydropower plant is now down to 660. Okay? Silted na yung river, deforested na yung mga bundok dyan, so the water retention is
Very poor.
less. And some of those plants are 40 years old. So you have to rehab them, redo the turbines, or change the turbines completely. It will cost money to do that. The private sector is willing to do that. Pero sinasabi ninyo, hindi, ayaw namin. Kayo, the government must do that and still sell us power at 3 pesos. Hindi naman pwede ganun because the rest of the country has already joined the EPIRA. We have not spent a single cent for a new power plant. They've all been built by the private sector already. So now, ginagaya na ho ang EPIRA namin doon po sa Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia. Singapore followed us after 2 years, in 2003. They had their own EPIRA. So, sustainable po yung model nila. Doon po sa Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand, they're subsidizing their power sector to the tune of 5 to 10 billion US dollars a year.
Pero anong nangyari na biglang sumupo sa open market ang mga rates na yan, tapos yun...
That is correct. And that is not their fault because we did not watch the market. All right? Supply and
Yung
demand
ERC.
yan. Huh?
The ERC did not watch the market.
That's correct. The ERC and the Secretary of Energy.
Oh.
All right? Alam nila na magkakaroon ng shortage. Alam nila mag-spike. 2.5 years ago, I already spoke to the Secretary of Energy at nakikita ko na yung spike in 2011.
Oo.
Nagkakaroon ng spike pero hindi mo manonotice because one day, ganun. Pero bakit tumatama ng 35, 50, 60 pesos? Ayun, shortage. So just like the rice market, pag medyo kukulangin yung supply, pumuputok yung presyo sa palengke, no? Okay. So that's what happened here. If you look at, wait, let me finish this. I have to say this. In the WSM, if you look at the average price, it was at 350 to 4 pesos. It was only in November that it went up to 9, 10, 15, 20, 30 pesos. So nobody is looking at, pare, magaling itong WSM, it's lower than the grid rate. The grid rate's about 450. It was selling at lower than the grid rate. In other words, there was more supply than demand. But we saw that there would be a shortage in November, and there was a government power plant, the 600 megawatt Malaya, which they did not offer on the market.
Bakit? Ano yan? Is a deliberate effort to sabotage Pinoy?
Hindi.
O just plain incompetence on the part of the people?
Incompetence. Talagang
Bakit pa ayaw niyang tanggalin niya kung ganyan
Sinabi
napaka-incompetent
ng
yan?
may-ari ng Malaya, the PISAM, which is the Public Sector Assets and Liabilities Management Company, said, my mandate is not to lose money. And I lose money whenever I operate that plant. Therefore, I'm not going to operate it. O yun. From his limited point of view, tama siya. But it's the Secretary of Energy that should have ordered him. Offer it on the market because if you don't offer it, this
Kakaroon ng
thing is going to
shortage,
spike.
tataas ang presyo.
That's what happened. It spiked.
Ay, nako. 0916-464-0661. Enteng kulit. Mr. Rosa, ang may papayo ko sa mga senador at kongresista na bago nila gamitin ang kanilang PDAP at DAP, ay kailangan mag-member muna ng Yellow Army at may tatak na KKK para siguradong may immunity sa kaso.
Wala na.
Ala si Enteng kung ano na pinagsasabi mo dyan, ha? From 0917-408-8541. Kadante. Mr. Rosa, kahit na ang Czech ambassador na ang nagre-reklamo sa 30 million extortion sa MRT project, ay walang aksyon ng Malacanang. Takot daw si President Aquino na ikanta ni MRT Bitangkol ang presidential sister at ang mister nito. You know, it was a funny statement that came from the palace spokesman na itong problema, itong attempted or alleged pangungurakot na ginawa, ay problema raw ng DOTC, hindi makikialam sa presidente. How can you say that?
I don't know. If it involves a sister of mine, it is my problem.
Absolutely.
Para sa akin.
Kasama doon. And para din maging malinaw yan kasi nagiging problema. Dito kasi nakikita ngayon, ang tanong ng tao, talaga bang serious si Presidente to pursue di matuwid na daan? O selectively lang?
Well, I think that serious siya, but kung kaibigan niya, siyempre, magkakaroon ng loyalty, pangs of loyalty yan.
Tinan mo na lang nangyari kay Torres.
Let me say something first, Ray, about the Czech bribery attempt. I know Bolsi Aquino, and I know Bolsi is like her mother. So I will vouch for the honesty of Bolsi Aquino.
Kaya ang question ko lang, bakit siya nahalo dito at ang pangalan niya nahalo?
Because sometimes...
ginamit ba lang yun?
Sometimes, alam mo, magdi-dinner, kasama si Bolsi, hindi naman alam ni Bolsi anong pinag-uusapan doon sa kabilang table. Ganyan nangyayari yan eh. And they always want to invite Bolsi because they will make you think, back up kami ni Bolsi.
Isn't Bolsi smart enough to say no?
I don't
As
think
the
she
sister of
knew.
the president, I should stay away from things like that?
I don't think she knew. Sometimes
No,
you know.
even if she didn't know, I mean, shouldn't you raise, why will they invite me to this?
I don't know the circumstances, but I'm just saying that those things do happen.
Okay, from 0919-707-8794 from Deng of Rizal. Ano po ang aksyon na dapat gawin para bumaba ang power rates dito? Dapat i-amend na ang EPIRA law, Senator Serge?
No. Alam mo, chinek namin yung EPIRA law. Chinek rin ng Department of
Justice.
Energy.
Energy.
chinek rin ng PCCI, the Philippine Chamber of Commerce Industry, that was also checked out by the foreign chambers, all the foreign chambers, American Chamber, European Chamber. They said, don't touch the EPIRA. It's in the rules. It's in the rules of the WSM. It's in the rules of the ERC. It's in the rules of the WhatsApp. Because the EPIRA is very general. It just states policy, and you know that, no? So it's up to the rule makers to now draw up the set of rules that will govern how the market works. So, pwede
Who's
kong
listening?
ibaba ang presyo.
No, but who's listening in, who are
Nobody's
watching
listening.
over?
Nobody's watching. That's why I'm already pissed off at the administration. Kasi sinasabi ko na siya, 4 years na yan, boss. Okay? Wala pa tayong ginagawa dyan sa Mindanao. Please naman. You know,
Kumilos ka.
how do we lower the rates? You cannot, there's no silver bullet. But you've been in business, so you know there are many small things that can add up to 1 peso, 1 peso 50 centavos per kilowatt hour. And I've seen it. Now, anong ginawa natin sa EPIRA? Bakit tumaas yung mga presyo? Number one, we remove all subsidies para magiging true cost of power, which is good because the government had to get out of the subsidy business. Unlike now, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia, they're trying to get out. They have political problems, big political problems. Kasi spoiled na yung tao doon. That's number one. So, we removed that. Because we removed that, the rates went up a little bit. But what made things worse is we added the value-added tax. So that's 12%. The value-added tax will amount to about 89 centavos per kilowatt hour.
Meron ko'y tatanong sa iyo, why am I being charged EVAT for systems losses that are being passed on to me? I have not bought anything.
No.
Nothing is being sold to me.
You're not being charged for systems losses. Let me explain you how systems losses comes about. Visualize yung block of ice. You see, the producer or the generating company measures the power that he gives you, the distribution company, when it leaves his gate. But by the time it arrives to whosoever you are serving, there's been a heat loss, there's been
yung
technical
system
loss,
loss,
etc.
yeah.
Okay, but you're only being charged for this, but there's an allowance that is given by all ERCs all over the world. The most efficient grid has a systems loss of about 4.5%.
Yeah, it's almost
But that's
5.
the most efficient grid in the world, right? So Meralco now is about 7.5. So
Yeah.
it's not bad.
Pero alam mo, dun sa billing nila, nakalagay yung EVAT and systems loss, ha?
Even with systems
Yes. And I'm thinking, ay Portuguese, hindi ko naman nakukuha yung...
No, but they would have included that some other way. Don't worry about it.
But they're charging me and everybody else EVAT for systems loss.
Just remove the entire EVAT.
That's of course another story, no?
That's, you're being charged 12% on 7%. So that's very small. Remove the entire 12%. That's what I'm saying. Now,
May
how much is
pag-asa
our
ba yun?
royalty?
May pag-asa ba yan?
Hindi bibigay ng administration yan. We'll have to look for another administration to
Kasi
that.
ako hindi ko...
Let me tell you another thing that will really even shock you. You know how much royalty you're paying, you who live in the Meralco franchise area, on natural gas?
Oh.
1 peso and 94 centavos.
Why?
That is the offshoot of a law, the Natural Oil and Gas Act that was passed during Marcos' time, that if we don't amend that, if we don't bring it down, you're paying 1 peso and 94 centavos for the natural gas, our gas from Malampaya. So instead of subsidizing us, you're even taxing us on its use.
How come nobody in the Senate has shouted at this and said...
I've been shouting that since 2003, 2004.
Walang nakikinig.
Wala naman.
0917-891-8341, Mr. Oxon, please assign a graduate of UP College of Agriculture in Los Baños to the Department of Agriculture. They're more knowledgeable regarding solving our food production problem. The last time was Gregorio Panganiban, 1963.
He's very good.
It's about time.
He's very good.
Ay ba, wala na ata si Panganiban. Baka namatay na.
No. He's just
Still
retired.
there?
Retired. But he was
Retired.
good. Pero he was never put in the top job. They always put a politician in the top job. So Panganiban was the USEC of Angara. And Angara doesn't know nuts about agriculture. So, useless rin, kawawa rin ng bayan.
0946-525-9240. Good evening po. I'm Jason Barsana. and I want to join in your discussion. Bakit po patuloy ang pagtaas ng presyo ng bigas dito sa bansa? Samantalang may pondo naman pong ibinibigay sa agricultural sector. Salamat po.
Very hard to answer po yan. Bakit po? Napakaguluho ng NFA. So,
hindi ba
mo
nila
alam-
madiretso yan? Sino ba ang nilalagay nila dyan? Alam mo,
Ngayon-
dati nang pinanggagaling,
ngayon bata ni
katakot-takot
Alcala.
na kahiyupan ang nangyayari sa NFA eh. Alam naman natin yun, yung unang nilagay nila doon na problema, hindi ba?
That's right.
Eh, paano ka maniniwala ngayon sa matuwid na daan?
That's correct.
Kung gano'n ang mangyayari.
Wala akong sagot yan.
Okay, 0942-479-5671. At age 67, it's only now I fully understand birds of the same feather flock together after Senator Osmeña called Pinoy amateur, awkward. Look at his cabinet. Thank you, Senator. No comment ka din dyan.
No comment. No comment po.
Ay, nako. Alam po ninyo, ang mahirap dito, of course, we understand kung bakit kuminsan reluctant si Senator Serge na ipaalam ko marahil kung ano yung tinatago ng puso niya sapagkat kailangan din, nakakausap niya yung mga taong yun araw-araw nakikita niya eh. Mahirap naman na titingnan ka dyan, sasabihin na, ikay, wala ka nang ginawa, kundi pumula. But, you know, we don't want to criticize the individual. We want to criticize the situation or the circumstance or the idea, not the person. We are not for insulting the person. But there does come a time when you have to make a judgment about people's competence
Even
in
if it's your
public
friend.
office. Maski
Even
na
if it's your
kaibigan
friend.
mo.
Yes.
And to be objective, maski na kaibigan mo.
Yeah, this is the business of the country. This is not your business.
Exactly.
Hindi ikaw may-ari. Okay lang kung ikaw may-ari niyan, ikaw malulugi. Pero this is
Dito,
the business of
tinatamaan
the-
ng taong bayan in many ways. 0917-815-2525, Senator, how do you encourage small businesses when BIR harasses you when you get bigger? Second, the VAT output and input system should be scrapped since we can't get VAT receipts from suppliers of goods.
Yan po ang problema, the implementation of VAT.
Ah.
It's very corrupt. Alright? As a matter of fact, may nakikita akong mga malalaking korporasyon. Their input VAT is bigger than their output VAT. Quarter after quarter after quarter. Sabi ko, bakit nalulugi ka ba? Why is your input VAT always higher than output VAT? So wala sa niyang net VAT payable sa BIR.
Alam mo, kinopy lang natin sa Europe yan eh. Ako, I would be in favor of a much lower percentage sa tawagin mo na lang sales tax. Eh.
No.
Ayaw mo din.
I disagree with you because I did a thorough study of the VAT system.
Oo.
And to me, it's the most elegant system in the world. But like any system, if you screw around with it, then it goes haywire. But it's a very elegant system because it did away first with what they call the cascading effect of taxes. Otherwise, you're paying tax on a tax on a tax. So every time the goods change hands, if you charge, say, a 6% sales tax, and it's added again, you're paying 6% on the 6% you paid earlier.
Ang alam mo lang, ayoko dyan. The final consumer is the one that pays the most while the corporations screw around with their VAT input and output.
Yes.
Hindi naman, sinong nasalang nung kundi taong bayan na naman?
Yes. That's why, unless it is well implemented, it's still the most elegant tax that I've seen.
Okay. Well, for elegance sake,
The last 12%, which is always paid by the final consumer, the 12% is really only a tax on profits and salaries. Because technically, you should have been paying VAT on everything inside your office, on the paper clip, on the water that you consume, on the light, etc.
which
So may
is a
input VAT na
terrible
doon.
system. I mean, can you start following? Alam mo, kausap po yung isang dentista tungkol dyan eh. Eh ngayon, pinepresyo niya, bawat karayom na ginagamit niya, o pandrill, o yung upuan mo dyan, ganito, ganon. Ha? Para mailabas na iyon is reimbursement of all that para yung basis ng income mo at ang income mo na for tax, halos wala. And you know, kung maglalaro lang tayo ng ganyan, parang sayang ang panahon eh. But in any case, I'm gonna have to get you back here to talk about taxes one of these days.
It's hard to understand also. You're asking me about energy. It's hard, so complex, and VAT is also very complex.
Very complex. Alam po ninyo, as usual, naubusan tayo ng panahon. Thank you, Senator
Thank you.
Serge, for being here. You know, it's always a joy to have the senator here to talk to him and let you hear him as he talks. And ako, seryoso ako ha. Sinasabi ko, ako, tingin ko one of the most outstanding potential candidates for the presidency is Senator Sergio Osmeña III. I knew his father too when he was still alive. But I think he's an improvement over his father. And I hope and pray that one day the good Lord will touch him to say, Anak, tumakbo ka. Thank you for being with us tonight. We'll see you next week. God bless you. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Welcome to our show, Heart 2.
Ay, marami pong salamat.
Marami rin yung lalaki ang ayaw rin ng divorce.
Change, meaning introduction of new policies.
At natutuwa ako na
Dito,
And
Gingo.
all that, or just katito.
buwan ng linggo ng kanyang panunungkulan and
It went from 5 peso and 30.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Welcome to our show, Heart 2.
Ay, marami pong salamat.
Marami rin yung lalaki ang ayaw rin ng divorce.
Change, meaning introduction of new policies.
at natutuwa ako na
Dito,
And
Gingo.
all that, or just katito.
buwan ng linggo ng kanyang panunungkulan and
It went from 5 peso and 30 centavos.